I thought the smell in my new house was just mold. But when I realized it was coming from behind a freshly patched wall, I knew someone had tried to hide something. The house was old, built in 1923. It had that kind of beauty you only find in forgotten places: wooden beams, antique fixtures, and creaky stairs that sighed with every step. I just moved in after a rough year, thinking an old fixer-upper would be a fresh start. The realtor told me the basement had been renovated recently. That should have been my first warning. For the first week, everything felt fine. A little lonely, a little cold, but peaceful. Then, one night around 2 a.m., I woke up to a faint humming sound. It was soft at first, like someone whispering a tune. I followed it downstairs, half asleep, thinking maybe the pipes were rattling. But when I opened the basement door, the smell hit me, thick, metallic, almost sweet. It clung to the air like rotting flowers. The single bulb above the stairs flickered as I went down. The humming stopped the moment my foot touched the last step. I scanned the room: shelves, furnace, tools. Everything looked normal. But near the far corner, the wall looked different. Newer. Cleaner. A rectangular section of concrete that didn't match the rest of the old bricks. I stepped closer, shining my flashlight on it. The smell was stronger there, and the air felt warmer, like there was something breathing behind the wall. My heart was racing. I knocked on it, just once. The sound was dull, hollow. Just once. The sound was dull, hollow. Then, I heard it. A single, faint knock. From the other side. I froze. My skin prickled. I didn't move for almost a minute. I told myself it had to be the pipes or my imagination. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. The next morning, I called the realtor. When I mentioned the wall, she got quiet. Then she said, "That section was sealed years ago. Please don't tamper with it." I asked why. She hesitated, then said because the last owner's daughter went missing. They never found her. And she hung up. For the next few nights, the smell grew worse. The humming came back always around 2 a.m., always from the basement. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a hammer, went downstairs and stood in front of that wall. My hands were shaking, but I started hitting it once, twice again. The cement cracked, dust spilling out. That's when I heard it. A voice. Soft, childlike. "Help me." I froze mid-swing. The voice came again, louder this time. "Please help me." I hit the wall again and the flashlight flickered out. Everything went black. I could still hear her breathing on the other side, shallow, trembling breaths. Then a third sound joined hers, deeper, heavier, closer. A man's voice whispered right next to my ear. "You shouldn't have done that." The flashlight came back on for half a second, just long enough for me to see a hand, pale and dirty, reaching out through a crack in the wall. I ran. I didn't stop until I was outside, gasping in the cold night air. I could hear something scraping behind me, the sound of bricks shifting, falling. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning I called the police. They found the basement door open and a section of wall broken. Inside they discovered old remains, bones wrapped in cloth, and a smaller skeleton beside it. They said the woman had been buried there decades ago, along with her child. I moved out that week. But sometimes when I drive past the house I see lights flickering in the basement window. And every time I roll my window down I swear I can still hear it, that faint humming drifting through the air. Some walls are built to keep things out. Others are built to keep things in. When I moved into my grandmother's old house after she passed away, I thought I knew every inch of it. I grew up there, the creaky floors, the smell of pine and dust, the narrow hallway that always seemed colder than the rest. But what I didn't remember was the door. It was behind a shelf in the basement, a small metal door almost hidden in the concrete wall. Rusted about 3 feet high, like it was meant for someone much smaller than me. I found it while cleaning out old boxes, and for some reason, just looking at it made my stomach twist. At first I thought it led to a crawlspace or a utility tunnel, but the more I stared at it the more wrong it felt. It was sealed tight, welded shut around the edges, and cold even when the rest of the room was warm. I asked my mom about it that night. She looked at me dead serious and said, "Don't touch that door, your grandmother told us never to open it ever." When I asked why, she said she didn't know, just that something lived behind it. I laughed it off. I thought it was one of those family ghost stories that got passed down over time. But that night I couldn't stop thinking about it. I swear, every time I looked at the basement door from the top of the stairs it felt like someone was standing just on the other side. Around 3 a.m. I woke up to a soft tapping sound. It was faint, rhythmic, 3 taps, pause, 3 taps again. Coming from beneath me from the basement. I told myself it was the pipes, maybe the furnace, but then my phone buzzed on the nightstand. When I picked it up I had a voicemail. It was static at first, and then through the distortion I heard a whisper. "Let me out please, it's cold down here." The number was my grandmother's. I froze. She'd been dead for 6 months. The next day I went down to the basement again. The small metal door looked the same, but there were scratches around the edges, now fresh ones. Like someone had been trying to pry it open from the inside. I packed up my things to leave that night, but before I did I heard something fall downstairs. A heavy thud. I grabbed a flashlight and went to check. The shelves had toppled over. The air felt colder than before, and in the beam of my light I saw it. The door was open about 2 inches. My phone started ringing again, the same number. I didn't answer, I just ran. The next morning I called a local contractor and told him to come seal the basement. He didn't even let me finish before saying, "You live in the old Miller house, right?" I said yes. He sighed and told me, "We've sealed that door 3 times over the years. It always opens again." I moved out a week later. My mom still owns the house, but no one goes down to the basement anymore. She says sometimes late at night she hears tapping from under the floorboards. Last week she sent me a picture. It was of the basement wall. The door was wide open again, and on the inside of it, scratched deep into the metal, were 4 words. "It's not cold anymore. If you ever find a door that wasn't there before, don't open it. It's not always trying to get out, sometimes it's waiting to let you in." I bought an old house on the edge of town, late 1920s, brick walls, long driveway, and a basement that seemed ordinary at first. When I moved in I was excited to finally have my own space, but there was one thing I didn't expect: a small locked door at the very back of the basement. It had no key, no latch, just a heavy iron handle and scratches around the edges like something had tried to escape from the other side. I asked the previous owner about it. He chuckled nervously and said, "Oh, that's just storage, nothing down there." That was the first warning I ignored. For the first few nights, everything seemed normal. But then the noises started. It was always subtle at first: a thump, a shuffle, or the sound of something dragging across the floor below. I told myself it was rats, maybe the old pipes. One night I woke up to the sound of someone breathing heavily from the basement. Slow, deliberate, almost human, but not quite. I grabbed a flashlight and went downstairs. The air was freezing and the basement smelled of rot. My beam of light landed on the locked door. That's when I noticed the scratches had multiplied, long claw marks zigzagging across the metal. I pressed my ear to the door. The breathing had stopped. Instead there was a whisper, faint but unmistakable. "Let me out." I stumbled back, heart pounding. I ran upstairs and locked the basement door from above, trying to convince myself it was my imagination. A few nights later I woke up to the sound of keys jingling. Someone or something was unlocking the basement door. I crept to the top of the stairs. The door was open, just a crack, and I could see a shadow moving inside. It was thin, impossibly tall, and its head was tilted in a way no human head could tilt. I ran out of the house that night and didn't come back for days. When I finally returned, the door was closed, but the scratches had turned into letters carved deep into the metal. I've been waiting. I moved out the next morning. The house is still for sale. People say it's haunted, but I know the truth. There's something locked in that basement that doesn't belong to this world, and it's patient, waiting for the next person foolish enough to open the door. Some doors aren't meant to be opened. And some things aren't meant to be freed.